G'day, I'm Mick, and I think it's time we talk about DM screens. Now, primarily, this piece of cardboard exists to serve us as an aid, a cheat sheet, for those moments where we might need to quickly reference a rule or refresh a name. And for this purpose, the standard 5th edition DM screen wasn't all that well received, something Wizards of the Coast made an effort to fix with the, reworked, revised, reloaded, the reincarnated DM screen. Now, I'm not going to show you exactly what's inside them both, that'd be a bit of a copyright issue, but we should still talk about what they changed and why they changed it. The original had NPC creation tables, a lot of empty space filled by art pieces, and a handful of last-minute improvisational prompts, which the new screen replaced with details on exactly what can be performed by a character in combat each round, and the player's handbook pricing on standard drinks and items. While what they kept in common were details on visibility and travel rules, a table to tell you which skills go with which ability by default, and about a third of their real estate is dedicated to explaining the effects of conditions. The complaint they were trying to address was wasted space, which according to their solution boiled down to art on the DM side and unhelpful random tables. Because, let's face it, when you're playing for dozens or hundreds of hours, a few static names aren't all that useful. But looking at the information that's left, how much of it is helpful to you? And for that matter, who is it designed for? Hold on to that thought as we look at this screen for the Curse of Strahd. Now, if you're not familiar with this, it's a module-specific screen. You'll find all sorts of them out there, and this one boils down to 2 hugely detailed maps, random names specific to the area, and random encounters, again, specific to the area. Now, that's a world away from what the default screens have on them, but we can clearly see who this screen is designed for, people running the Curse of Strahd. And if that were you, you'd probably find all this information very helpful. It's all focused and relevant to what you're running. But these standard screens and their information, it's more than likely not exactly what you're looking for. And that's because they're not designed for you. They're not even designed for the average DM. They're designed for the average of all DMs, if that makes sense. They have a bit of everything so that hopefully something helps you. But what that really means is most of it won't, which is why you'll find so many DMs taping their own bits and pieces onto these screens, or just downloading entire sheets packed with rules and reference tables that they think may help them one time, eventually, maybe. I was guilty of that for the longest time, and what I found was I rarely referenced any of it. And because of that, when I did need to find something, I'd have to hunt for the right section, at which point it was no faster than just flicking to a bookmark page or pulling out a reference sheet. The entire advantage of the DM screen is that it's right there. When you're driving, I don't know about the rest of the world, but there are cameras everywhere in Australia, so you always need to know your speed, and it's right there. You don't need your optimum tire pressure or your boot capacity here, you need what is immediately relevant. And the minutiae of every possible ruling isn't it. At least for me. What should be there will depend on you, on what you find useful in your current campaign, even your current session, which is why module-specific screens have such an advantage. They know what you're doing, so they can be designed for you. But as for these one-screen-fits-all solutions, let's try and make it a little more specific. In my mind, there are 3 rough levels we can tune this to. Each requires more effort than the last, but equally provides more reward. So I'll leave it to you to decide which is the most appeal to your situation and where you want to draw that line. Let's start simple with the DM specific screen. This is where all you have to do is stick up the rules you're not all that good at remembering, and maybe some random names or inspirational images if you're uncomfortable improvising without a fallback. This takes no time at all to do, as there are countless free templates online you can mix, match, stitch together and update regularly. And I've linked a heap of them in the Patreon post accompanying this video. This way, instead of having the rules you need hidden amongst all the ones you don't, you dictate what is where, when you need it. And that's all there is to this sort of screen, easy as that. As I said, it's the simplest level, but it's also where a lot of DMs stop, which is a shame because with only a little more effort, we can make a campaign-specific screen. Now, especially as you get more experience, you'll probably find that the amount of rules that you need to reference to remember don't take up a full DM screen. And when you know it, the condition rules don't have to take up a third of it, which leaves space we can fill with large-scale campaign details. This may be the calendar, I can never remember my day names, your custom pantheon, the major towns and cities, or perhaps even a world map, or a list of major historical events next to their dates. Ask yourself, what are the details about your setting that come up a lot, or rather the details that should be referenced when you're retelling some history on the fly. Even if it's just one panel of your screen, you'll find it surprisingly affirming to have some of that lore right there. Where was the coastal city you passed by last month? That would have been Saltrig. How old would this town be? No more than 300 or 400 years. The basic information that informs the core of our answers. Then if you're keen to go up another notch, we can use a session-specific screen, which admittedly sounds like a bit of a nightmare, but I've started using this as sort of a blueprint for my weekly prep. Do we need any sort of map this week? Who are the NPCs around? Are they in a town? If so, what are their likely vendor interactions? What were the beats from last session they're likely to ask questions about? Have you remembered to write some wildcard characters and random events? Maybe there's a specific line you want to deliver a word for word when triggering a combat encounter. In truth, this is a combination of what might be your usual weekly prep and your established campaign notes for the current area, just stitching them together in an easy to read, easy to reference format. And as I said, for me, I find it quite helpful when I'm preparing for a session to now be able to look at my DM screen and see what I might need to fill out in this blueprint. You could even be super organized and color code tags with additional information. They triggered the bugbear encounter, that's the red sleeve, but we're getting away from the point. Obviously, there's no right or wrong when it comes to your screen. Maybe you liked the sound of the original ones the best. What's important is that you feel comfortable behind the screen. So whatever it is that's making you anxious, whatever's causing you to pause and think, oh, what is it? That's what you should put on the screen. It'll give you the confidence to relax and enjoy yourself. And just by having it there, whatever it is, the constant exposure will imprint that information into your memory. And before you know it, it'll all be second nature. The DM screen is there to help you, to reassure you, to make everything easier. If you wanted to pick up an official screen, be it a normal one or a module specific one, I'll stick links in the description. I've also linked plenty of free templates at their various websites online, but I'm sure you'll be able to find even more than I did with just a quick search. Also, I've put up some of my own blueprints in the Patreon post for this video, which, speaking of, as always, thank you to my patrons who are making these ongoing videos possible. Now, I'd really be interested in seeing your own DM screens, how you've modified them, and what information you still use. Tweet it at me or tag me on Instagram or just comment it on Patreon. I'll post mine up there. Don't worry if it's a mess, that's how I'll know it's genuine. What else? Oh, if you're liking the channel, share it around on other platforms, press all the good buttons, and until next time, I'll see you down under in the comments.